From the NewsChannel 5 network and Out and About Nashville, this is Out and About Today, sponsored by the Tennessee Performing Arts Center.
Good evening, I'm Pam Wheeler. Thanks for joining us for a special edition of Out and About Today. Tonight, our show's focus is the work of the Nashville LGBT Chamber. We will talk with membership manager Lauren Bland, past president Ron Snicker, and get to know the new president, a lesbian, Steph Ballou. Up first, the Nashville LGBT Chamber's CEO, Joe Woolley, is here via Zoom. Welcome back to the show, Joe.
Pam, it is great to be back. It's been a while, but it's wonderful to be back on. I wish I was there in the studio with you. I miss interaction, that's for sure.
I do too, and we will definitely do that in the future. Let's start with a recap of 2020. I've got here the Chamber's 2020 annual report. We could spend the whole show talking about it. We don't want to do that because, gosh, 2020 we want to put in the rear view. But give us some highlights of 2020 because it's quite amazing what the Chamber did accomplish.
2020, I don't know, professionally or personally, a tougher year. I think we could all say that. It really was just a year of nonstop events that the Chamber and the community had to respond to. Let's not forget that 2020 started off with the passage of a discriminatory and hateful piece of legislation. The Senate passed and the governor signed the adoption bill. We were lucky that that adoption bill was really just a hateful piece of legislation that didn't have real heavy consequences on LGBT people's day-to-day life. But Tennessee, took a black eye with that bill passing, and we were dealing with the economic ramifications that came from that, and watching several other bills make their way towards it through the legislature that were discriminatory, gearing up for, I think what would have been a really tough session to stop legislation from passing. And then the tornado.
Right.
And the tornado ripped through, across this city, so many areas that have members and the community members that live in those areas. It was 400 feet from my house. And we know many members lost their businesses and their homes. The Chamber responded with resources for our businesses and the community on how to respond and recover. We did one weekend of cleanup. We were gearing up for a second weekend of cleanup. All of Nashville turned out, and then Nashville shut down with COVID. Mm-hmm. None of us had ever experienced anything like that, so it was make it up as you go along. The COVID shutdown was really hard because you had members, shuttering their businesses, shutting down. All of us were staying in. We really became a source of information. We wanted to put out as much information as we could. We created a COVID resource page, which is still up and updated for anything that we find out around COVID, educated on mask usage. We started advocating for our businesses on what the closings meant. So for small businesses, we're an advocacy organization for them. We advocated for salons, gyms, other, hospitality industry here on the local level because we have that connection with the mayor's office and the health department, and really just became a resource for opportunities and resources to recover. That kept going, and then we had June come along. And June was one of the hardest months I think I've ever been through. What was our celebratory Pride Month was centered on the very important discussion that we had around systemic racism and social injustice. And we helped guide our members through that. We needed to tell them this is not, yes, we can celebrate Pride anytime. Yes, it's Pride Month. The conversation that this nation and this community and the city of Nashville is having right now is around this. So please focus on this, and here's some guidance on how to be a better ally, how to talk about this, and this is the conversation we're having. I really do think that was an important role for us to make sure that people were involved, people were educated around that topic. This chamber represents the marginalized of the marginalized. So our Black LGBT brothers and sisters are the marginalized of the marginalized, and we represent them. And we had I think, a really good discussion, and we're able to have a conversation that month around this very important issue that we are still dealing with and we still need to do work on. Also, the Supreme Court came out with their historic ruling around the case of Bostock, which talked directly about Title VII and that sex does mean gender identity and sexual orientation, and that you can now not be fired for that. It has much larger ramifications, but that was a big historic announcement that we had a lot to say and a lot to talk about with the media, with corporate members, and with the community. All of that then happens, and then you had the second wave of COVID shutdown, and that is where I think us supporting our members really became critical, because that's when we started to see members closing. That's where members were like, I've held on for 4, 5, 6 months. I can't keep going. Can you help me, unfortunately, close my business? And I think that was the hardest part, or it has been the hardest part, is not being able to help all the people that do need assistance. The economy here in Nashville wasn't great. We were having some fiscal insecurities. There was a possible referendum on the ballot, which would have crippled the city. We were having a big conversation in that, and we were going to have a big role to play in that. Fortunately, that didn't come to fruition. But all of that is taking place along with everything else. We're almost to the end of the year. I was breathing a sigh of relief that we were ready to move on. And then I woke up Christmas Day when my house shook and the downtown terrorism attack, the bombing. It was just one more thing that I was like, I cannot believe this city and our incredible members in our community are having to face. 2020 was a very tough year. Those are the things that we overcame, but it was also a year, I think, of opportunity and growth. And I think that's reflected in the report.
Yeah, and you just did an amazing job recapping the hardest year the Chamber faced. And I do think looking to the Chamber for news and information was, it filled an important need. I want to highlight a couple of things, and then we're going to move on to this year and what's going on. But I want to highlight a couple things you didn't mention. The partnership with the Austin LGBT Chamber, $6,000 in scholarship money, a third $25K grant, new programming. I think you did touch on that. You know, and Joe, I could go down the list of awards that you received in recognition. I know you don't want me to do that, but the reason I think it's important to talk about you making these lists, 40 under 40, when are you going to be not under 40? But you don't have to answer that. But really, the reason I bring that up is because that's what we want in a CEO. We want a CEO who's leading and recognized. So I think it's important to mention that. So let me ask you quickly. I need a quick answer. What does it feel like leading this organization in a non-Trump era? I know we're new in, but what does that do to your psyche, to what you can accomplish, even though that's federal? But where are you there?
Well, thank you for mentioning that. It is an honor to lead this organization. Every day, I just can't believe I get to do this. And the accolades are nice, but the work and the results and helping people are what I'm in it for. As far as what it's like now, I think a sigh of relief. I think overall in the community, we all breathe easier. Any marginalized person breathed easier that the past administration is gone. I think we have seen tremendous immediate leadership from the current administration on protections for LGBT people, and we're going to be treated equally. That doesn't mean that our job's gotten any easier here in Tennessee. We still face challenges, and the Chamber is ready to take those on, defend the community, support our businesses and our allies, and continue to move forward.
What is the biggest challenge the Chamber is facing right now, and what's the plan to address it? We have about a minute before we're going to break and come back with Lauren. So take a stab at that.
Biggest challenge I think right now is and I think it has been, is a capacity issue. How can you continue to serve the members at the level that they want and need to help them out at those levels, and continue to grow, continue to offer new, exciting things? I think a challenge of us not being able to meet in person, we're an advocacy organization first, the Chamber of Commerce, but this organization was founded 21 years ago as a networking organization.
Right.
How does networking look in the future if we are not able to come together in person? I hope to get back to that soon, but I think balancing that safely for me, is the most immediate concern on the horizon of where are we going and what do we look like we do with our program.
Okay, thanks, Joe. We're going to take a quick break, really quick. Please come back with us. Lauren Brand, membership manager, will be right here with Joe, and we're going to talk about all the benefits and perks of membership with the Nashville LGBT Chamber. Stay with us.